He's probably the best player at his position in the country. I'm assuming that he will play in the game. I don't know any different than that. That was Nick Saban earlier this week on Georgia's tight end who's been banged up this year. Brock Bowers. He's very good, Matt.
Yeah, he's very good. One of the best players I've ever seen play between the hedges, Dean. One of the best, arguably the greatest college football tight end of all time. We can dig into that a little bit later. Feels like we've already talked about this, but we're going to keep going. He is a special player. Everyone knows it. Scored a touchdown against Alabama 2 years ago in the SEC championship game and in the national championship game. Nick Saban knows talent. He is the GOAT of GOATs of college football, and he knows Brock Bowers is a special talent. We've been talking a lot this week about how does Georgia's defense stop Jalen Milroe, but another big question, how does that Alabama defense stop a guy like Brock Bowers? Auburn tried to do it. They couldn't, but the guy is just so special, and they better have one or two guys on him, or else he's going to make a lot of plays on Saturday.
All right, so you mentioned the Auburn game, and let's just go through that game real quick because Brock has made a lot of plays at Georgia. Obviously, the play against Ohio State was just his hand, sort of that Yoda deal, whatever he was doing there. He was very good against Florida in 22, Georgia Tech, UAB in 21. But the game against Auburn, that day in Auburn at Auburn, the everything was Georgia had to fight through that game. It was not an easy game, and Bowers, what he did at the end of that game was he just completely took it over. I mean, the one-handed catches, some of them didn't even count. You remember that one?
I remember that one. It was like boom, boom, boom. Great play, great play, great play. Oh, there he goes. Touchdown. Georgia's going to win the game. He can hurt you in so many ways.
Yes.
2 years ago against Kentucky, he had the long touchdown catch, like in the sun, draped over a guy. He can do that. He can, the quick tosses out to him. He follows one block and takes it the distance. It feels like he runs with such balance. He's running down the sidelines. And guys are still bumping on him, and he won't go out of bounds. I mean, he's a robot. I mean, he looks like the first robot. He just looks like a Brock Bowers human guy, but he does everything so well. He practices at a high level. He competes at a high level. I don't think anyone has ever seen anything like him, really. He is incredible. And we could talk about Kyle Pitts and what he brought to Florida and still could bring to the Falcons. But another conversation. I'll talk to Ryan about that one. But Nick Saban knows how good he is. We'll see if they've got a game plan to stop him.
I don't know. I think it's really challenging to stop him. That's for sure. Hey, pick up DAWGSTRUCTION. This is signed by Kelee, Ringo. Let me tell you, there's a lot of pictures of Brock Bowers in this one. I don't have a lot of these left. Make sure you're taking advantage of this while you can. The link for that is right down below. I want to get back to the Auburn situation. In that game, he went 8 for 157, including a 40-yard touchdown. So that day at Auburn was one of the most live crowds I've seen in a very long time. It had not gotten late because we were in September, and so late in the game was still daylight, which was odd, just as a person who's been to that game a lot. But you could feel I don't know that you could feel that the game was getting away from Georgia, Matt, but it was they were in a real fight. And then all of a sudden what happened was Bowers and Carson Beck too just totally took over. And there are some images, and I'll get to them while you're talking. There are some images that I took of that play, which will go down, if Georgia wins the national championship, will go down as one of the important plays of this year. Bowers, just the determination that he had and the way that he reacted after that catch. I'm going to put it on the screen and I'm going to let you talk. So go ahead.
Yeah, it was a special moment, and it did feel like it almost got away with them. I think, Oscar fumbled to start the second half. That wasn't great. And then it looked like Daijun Edwards had fumbled. And originally they gave the ball to Auburn. Place erupted, Dean.
Yep.
Erupted. That place is a fantastic environment. That crowd got real loud, and it was a big boom across the stadium. As it turned out, he didn't. I don't know if Georgia scored on that drive, but at that point, you knew, okay, let's get it together. Now, normally this year, Georgia's taken that first punch, that first drive, first quarter, in some cases, punch, and then they go out and they crush the opponent for 2.5 quarters, right? Against Auburn, it seemed like they took multiple punches and they had to deliver some, and they did in the second half, and they made big plays, big game-changing plays, thanks to Brock Bowers and the defense making plays too. But at the end of that game, everyone was talking about, man, this is the best player in college football, maybe a Heisman, type of game early in the season. But I mean, he showed then how special he was. He could have been playing on Sundays. He could have been playing the next day and making plays in the NFL. That's how good he already is.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, y'all saw some of those images, and Brock, he's quiet. He does not like interviews. He's not comfortable, generally speaking. And that's everybody's not like us in front of cameras all the time. So I get it. It's not a problem at all. He's never been, rude or difficult. Not that that matters. But I'm just trying to describe his personality as not super aggressive verbally. I remember, I can't remember who I was talking to. It might have been Carson, and I think it was on the record, although I cannot recall. So
Love,
forgive me.
yeah.
Say that again.
Love how that happens.
Yeah. Okay. They were Carson said to him so remember Brock Bowers fumbled during the Auburn game. That was like he said, "Oh no, I got it," and then they got over to the sideline. So the initial was Brock says to Carson, "Oh no, I didn't fumble." And then the longer it went, Brock was like, "Man, I don't know, I may have fumbled." So, but as it turns out, he didn't even come close to fumbling. I don't even know what we stopped it. That was a poorly officiated game, much like the Georgia Tech game was. But and then I'll go back. I've told this story many times, and when you talk with people around the program and get to see things that we don't get to see, I was in Athens area, and someone said they were very concerned. There was a lot of concern in 21 going into the game against Clemson that Darnell was not going to be able to play. Well, the person I talked to said, yeah, that's, that's not good, but they're like, man, Brock Bowers is really good. And I kind of had to be reminded of who that was. Because if you remember, no, you're laughing now. But yeah. Brock Bowers was not a household name in August 2021.
Yeah. And
but he did, hold on one second. He did make the first catch of 2021 and the last catch of 2021 for the Dogs. Amazing.
He led the team in receiving in his first game as a college football player against Clemson in game 1. Yeah, he was the team's leading receiver in his very first college game. And we should have known, I guess, then how special he was. Then week 2 against UAB, he outruns 2 defenders to the end zone. You're like, dude, this kid is something. And then when he took off against Georgia Tech and just had an extra gear later in the season, that's when you said, okay, this kid, it might be one of the best players in college football already. As productive as it gets, I don't think he's going to break Terrence Edwards' records, or he's not going to get over 1,000 yards, anything like that. But I think all time, I think he's top 5 in receptions, top 5 for receiving yards, and probably touchdowns. So the numbers, he'll be up there, and he's got some rings, and he might get some more rings.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the stats from that Clemson game. Georgia wound up with 271-ish yards. Clemson didn't have much over 200. That was one of the ugliest games I've seen in a long time. Georgia couldn't throw the ball down the field, Matt, because JT Daniels was sort of broken as a human being.
That was
not that DJ Uiagalelei was either. I mean, he was getting crushed. He got sacked 7 times. 7 times. That would not be fun. But Bowers wound up in that Clemson game going 6 for 43. His long was 13. That was probably one of his least productive games in 2021 against a big foe. But this year, man, he had a stretch of, and I wonder when we're going to see this again. Against UAB, 9 for 121 with 2 touchdowns. Against Auburn, 8 for 157 with a touchdown. Against Kentucky, 7 for 132 with a touchdown and a drop touchdown. Against the Vols, he was 7 for 60 And the other thing I will add, and I was, when he erupted at the Tennessee player late in that game, he had very good reason to. There were a couple things. I saw one of them literally that happened. The other one I did not see, but I believe the person that said it. Um, so there were a couple of things that were completely inappropriate that happened on that play, but it just showed you, hey man, this guy's not just
Yeah.
a teddy bear. He's not going to just get beat up, but he is exceptional. Nick Saban has all the reason in the world, Matt, to be concerned about if Brock Bowers is healthy and if Brock Bowers is ready to party on Saturday. No, I'm throwing it to you for your last
Oh,
comments there.
sorry.
Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No,
Have you put into words, Matt, what Brock Bowers' legacy is as of today before Georgia plays Alabama in the SEC championship in 2023?
he's one of the best players in program history. He is a generational, explosive, uber talented human and player. He's great for the program. One of the best Georgia Bulldogs of all time.
All right, thanks for watching.